and she pulled open a knickers drawer, and there was a rat looking back at her. You're listening to the Beat Motel podcast, and we need to warn you that we like to use words like fuck, shit, and syndicalist, bunty scrutux, angry flap, and filth biscuits, and we don't often bleep those words out, apart from because we're not complete animals. But if you understand that and you like music, then listen on. It still makes me laugh.
What biscuits are we talking about?
Filth biscuits. Angry flap and filth biscuits.
Filth biscuits. You don't even have to bleep filth biscuits because it doesn't. What is a filth biscuit?
I have no idea. I wrote it. I've got no idea what it's meant to
Listeners, please write and tell us what a filth biscuit is.
Filth biscuit. But it is true. My wife opened her pants drawer and there was a rat staring back, which was a surprise, to say the least. Right. Welcome to Beat Motel. Occasionally we talk about music. Shall we kick things off with the riff of the week?
Yes,
that rat did eat through my speaker cables. Just if you want a bit more kind of a texture for that story.
At what point did the euphemism end?
What, for panty rat?
That's another one to bleep.
Oh shit!
Welcome to 40-something-year-old men with 4-year-old boy humor.
Exactly.
My son has just sort of, it's taken him a little time, but he's into toilet humor now.
Excellent. It's an inevitable thing, but most people grow out of it at some point.
most women grow out of it at some point. A lot of cis men never grow out of it. It's a big part of our culture.
Well, yeah. Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. I mean,
give me some insight on poo humor.
I don't know. I was reading a paper the other day, last week, and it was talking about basically whiny white people in America in the 90s, and it really annoyed me when it was talking about modern men trying to sort of articulate their feelings, and it put out there the American version of men behaving badly. Part of this article was so badly researched, it just really annoyed me that it got published in the first place. But yeah, and I just who talks about the American version of men behaving badly?
Do you know? There's
but it's all about repressed male emotional
that was just generally seen as lols in the 90s. That was the cornerstone of situation comedy. Oh, even like Friends and stuff. It's like men can't express stuff. Meanwhile, I'm like bawling my eyes out at fucking John Lewis adverts or something.
Oh, I went. What is that? We went to see this new. I don't know what it is. It's the latest one of the latest animation films about a duck migratory group. I watched it in Finnish. My Finnish isn't very good. I still cried.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Was it subtitled?
My wife was sat there, just sort of arms crossed, went, "Yeah, it was fun."
Anything like that, or anything like Studio Ghibli, I can barely get 20 minutes into some of them before I start going like trying to catch my. So, was there any subtitles? Or were you literally just straight up Finnish in your head, in your ears?
Finnish in my ears, yeah.
So
it's a very well told film visually. I would say that. I don't think my Finnish
clearly.
My Finnish was just they're clever with the language they used. I think this is a thing I always get a bit pissed off with these reviews that go to see kids' films without taking a kid to it. It's like, you're not the judge of the quality of this film. You, as a 30, 40-something-year-old adult, cannot judge a film aimed at a 7-year-old. A 4-year-old has a better grasp of it. If there's something for you in it, if the visuals are good, and the visuals are very good, I also think like going to seeing a film in a language that is not your own and one that you can just about keep up with, it actually showed, it sort of revealed the quality of storytelling. I'm not sure it was a good film or not. It's not me for my my kid enjoyed it. We went to see it twice.
It
So
is. It's become a cliche now that people go, "Oh, the clever thing about kids' films now is they make them so adults can understand them." I always think, shouldn't adults be able to understand it in some rudimentary way, not on the same level as a child? Because that is the real skill. If you watch something, and I remember my daughter was very young, she'd watch something and absolutely love it, and I'd just be watching, going, "What is the appeal?" But it's not for me.
what winds me?
CBeebies is gone.
Oh no, yeah, CPBs. Some of it's just fucking up. What winds me up, and God, I mean, it's amazing how many fucking times you can rewatch the same.
Oh, we've had this conversation, I think possibly on the podcast before, because kids, it takes them something like 80 or 90 watches to get all the nuances, and it takes adults 1 or 2.
But it's also like I get to see Martin sort of in his, you also sort of see them develop in their understanding of how storytelling works in these mediums, and so like now he gets different things out of it. But it's like he spends one episode just watching a corner of the screen, just to sort of see all the things. And whereas we have how many years of being able to read that. There's a whole load of symbolism that our mind can just skip through these days. I
Yeah,
now watch these movies just looking for the jokes in the background.
yeah. Talking about kind of seeing things or noticing new things. Last night I noticed how shit something was.
What was that?
So when I was a teenager, in the late 80s, my favourite film was Dune, and that was my favourite film probably into my 20s. Back when you had to tape stuff off the telly, the VHS tapes would kind of wear out, and I got to my later 20s and kind of looked at it again and went, I'm not sure this is particularly good. Don't think it's very good. I think at the time everyone was really into Star Wars, and I think Star Wars was all right, but Dune offered something a bit more cerebral and a bit more sort of trusting of the audience, and it was about empire and stuff, which I liked. So when the new films came out, I went to go and see them and just went, yeah, really not sure about the original, the 1984 Dune, and saw the second part of Dune a couple of nights ago, and it, apart from the fact it was far too fucking loud, it absolutely blew my nips off. It was. I was checking. I've got a decibel meter on my watch, and we were watching in an IMAX screen. It got over 90 decibels. I think it was 93. It got to, and it was too much. It was literally like, that's too fucking loud. That's too loud. But loved the film. So last night, Emma and I watched the 1984 version of Dune. Fucking hell. I can see why it's so pilloried and why so many people hated it even before the new Dune. It's bad. They shortcut so you're like, hang on, what's that happening? Why is that happening? And it's awful. And it's David Lynch, who I'm sure, did he do Twin Peaks?
Yeah.
Which I've not seen either. I mean, I've not seen, but it just, what a bloated sack of shit that was.
I don't really get the appeal of David Lynch. I think it's a bit. It's the same world as Frank Zappa to me. It's
really,
yeah. It's willfully sort of trying to be weird
trying to be
without
wacky.
without actually succeeding and being interesting.
So what about Tim Burton then? Because Tim Burton is like deliberately dark.
But Tim Burton is like his first, like Edward Scissorhands, great film. Tim Burton is sort of like when The Cure go pop. He's the visual equivalent of Friday I'm in Love.
I love that so much. That's so God. That might be one of the best quotes we've had from the entire, however many. Well, I don't know how many episodes we've had.
How many years have been trapped in this box?
Oh God, that's a weird thing. My daughter's really into Nirvana at the moment, and like some of the lyrics, like Heart Shaped Box, I'm like, I hope she doesn't like look up the meaning of these songs. Jeebus. Right, 10 minutes in nearly, and we're not had any music, so I'm going to play your riff of the week, Sam. Hey, who was that, Sam?
That was the Iron Monkey, or Iron Monkey as they're actually known, with the song Concrete Shock, and their album comes out as we record this tomorrow.
Oh, it's
New album.
new. Oh,
It's new.
wow.
The singer is now the guitarist is now the singer. The original singer, who sounded like a wounded banshee. Really amazing sort of delivery that just sounded inhuman. And he committed to. I think he committed suicide. He died. He
No,
died
he had
somehow.
cancer. He was
And
he was ill on and off with cancer, I think, for quite a long time.
yeah, he was quite an ill person, and they got back together a few years ago. And I didn't. The last album I sort of didn't really do anything, and then I think they changed drummer. And this album, the drummers really got it, and they got a really good production for their sort of music on it. The guitars sound so filthy. They sound, they literally they sound so good.
I'm really surprised because when I clipped this, when I prepared it, I was like, "Whoa, this sounds so much clearer and so much better than anything I remember about Iron Monkey." And to be fair, my entire experience of Iron Monkey is staying in your apartment in Helsinki, and you just got like a career compendium. That's not what you call it, is it? A box set.
It was a 2 CD box set of the 2 albums they had put out at that point, in the early '90s, the late '90s. I also think they got fucked over by earache.
Oh,
I
really?
think a lot of bands got fucked over by earache, particularly in the late '90s. Napalm Death weren't big fans of them either.
It seemed there was a time where it seemed like everyone was on earache. I know what Extreme Noise Terror were, and they just seemed to be absolutely everyone. I'm always disappointed when metal labels fuck people over. Not as disappointed as I am when punk labels fuck people over. That sort of hurts. That sort of really stings.
Yeah.
I'm reading an incredible book at the moment called "This Band Could Be Your Life," which I think you might have actually put me onto. Our Band Could Be Your Life. I'm going to find out who it's by. Our Band. Yeah.
It's a Minutemen lyric.
Yep. Book by Michael Azerrad.
Rings a bell.
It's about like the music scene. It's the independent music scene. What would become called kind of the college music scene in America. So sort of 80 to 89. Although at the beginning there's a really meandering intro to the book, which is just pointless. And I recommended this book to a friend and said, just skip the intro. It's just there's no reason to read it. But in the intro, he does say that he stops talking about bands when they sign to majors. But you've got a chapter on each band, and it's one of the best, most interestingly written books about music I think I've probably ever read. It's absolutely fantastic. So the first chapter is about Black Flag. So you've got to start with one that everyone's going to get really excited about. Second chapter is Minutemen, and absolutely fascinated me. I really love the way he tells the story without. It's not hagiography, and it's not too kind of like sucking up to. It's sort of quite matter of fact, but trying to look at the relationships between the people in the band, and also
interesting.
Each of the band's relationships to their audiences. And the Minutemen largely came across as basically Mike Watts and came across as sort of like quite ratty, quite kind of not sloppy in any way, but quite all over the place. And they were always having punch-ups. They literally fought all the time, but their fighting was always more like brothers. Nothing. They were never actually going to stop talking to each other. They just wound each other up all the time. But it's really interesting because they just couldn't get anywhere. They were so odd that nobody understood them. No one got what they were doing at all. And I like the book because it's not talking about it in so much as going, well, of course now everyone loves them, because I still don't think Minutemen are particularly massive. It was more that they willfully didn't want to be understood. They were looking at what other bands were doing and doing the opposite. Brilliant chapter on Mission to Burma, who I don't think I've ever heard. But
Yeah, I've seen them live. I think there's one
Really?
of the, yeah, the ATP were big into them.
Oh, right. Okay. So that.
That whole scene, apart from like the more hardcore side of things, that whole scene is sort of the genesis of, I guess, the ATP world.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I mean, I've only got. I've just read the Minor Threat chapter, and it fucked up my night's sleep really badly because Ian McKay, there's Kai McKay. There's so much sort of not hype, but he looms large. You can say that he looms
Yeah,
large in the world
he
of
does.
alternative music and punk, especially. And I read that chapter. I went to bed early because I wanted to get a good long night's sleep, but made the mistake of reading the Minor Threat chapter and basically couldn't sleep for the rest of the night. I was like overstimulated. I was like, there's too much information. This is kind of too cool, but it's I'd thoroughly recommend that book. I think it's wonderful. Really enjoyed it. And, so our band could be your life. But anyway, we ought to move on because we're now.
I want to just say about that Iron Monkey thing that when they so that drummer is, I don't know, I need to go back and listen to the album they released beforehand, but I think they got the vocals better this time. Like he's a bit more off hinged. The guitarist vocalist, he's a bit more unhinged. But also the drummer does this really nice thing when that beat comes in, he's doing this sort of slow, quite a bit with a swing, but then they kick into the verse. He kicks it up a pace, and it sounds 90s in that trick, but it's a really cool trick that too few stoner bands do because it just gives that propulsion that actually moves the song. So hats off to that drummer. He's cool. Sorry, Andrew.
Yeah,
Go on.
that's right. No, I'm quite happy to talk about Iron Monkey. I've just looked up Johnny Morrow. Yeah, it was heart failure, but I think I remember reading up before, and he was not a well man,
No.
basically. But that I'm really chuffed there's something new coming out because there's something so much more aggressive about Iron Monkey compared to a lot of the stoner or sludge stuff can just get it just sort of gets boring, just
Yeah.
gets really passive, and it just gets so. I don't like that kind of like dude type metal.
Yeah.
Man, we just got to play slow, just go from octave to root and just like stuff like Sleep. Sleep has some brilliant songs like Dragon or whatever it's called, astonishingly brilliant riffs. But a lot of the other stuff's just boring as shit. It's just like, well done, you've detuned.
Yeah.
Don't get it at all.
There's a threat, and I don't know. I tried to get into I Hate God, who have been playing. They played Helsinki twice in the last year, and I tried to get into them because I just want to go to gigs, and they're put up in the same world as Iron Monkey. They just don't have, to me, they don't have the aggression and the threat of Iron Monkey, and there's something exciting about that threat. That Iron Monkey sort of like it feels like I was thinking like sometimes I get the metaphor I think of as like a street fighter,
Mm.
and like Iron Monkey just sound like you know it's not going to be a pleasant time, um, and they got
See,
none of like yeah and yeah. Anyway, go on. Let's move on. Let's move on.
going back to the our band could be your life. One of the things that really surprised me about Henry Rollins and the previous episode of the Beat Motel podcast, we had my friend Dan Callis was guesting. I was about to say because you were elsewhere, you were elsewhere, and I was saying to him about this book, and I was saying about the Black Flag chapter really surprised me, especially about Henry Rollins. And he literally, Dan goes, "What?" And I was like, "No, no, no." He said, "Okay, because if you were about to tell me that he'd done some like awful things, I would have been really upset." And I was like, "It's not so much that, but he had this real." He had a real edge that towards the end, I think he was pushing it. He was like, "No, I'm going to be unpleasant now, as in actually not be a very nice person." But didn't really have the heart to back it up because he was doing spoken word tours and like all this like hyper intellectual stuff at the same time. But there's something I don't know where the aggression's from with Iron Monkey. I've never figured it out, nor have I tried to, if I'm honest. It's just, it's got that slight anarcho-punk edge. Like the first time I went into an actual squat was probably with you, actually, in Russell Square in London. I can remember being slightly uneasy, slightly like, I don't know enough about what's going on here to know whether these are good people or not. And I think that's kind of the vibe I get from Iron Monkey.
Yeah, I mean that's it, and that's like there's a certain, I think there's a certain attraction to that. In the same way, there's a certain attraction to say like David Yao and those other sort of band, was it Butthole Surfers as well? It's like there's an attraction to the off-hingedness, and there was a write-up of this new album that I read, which made me more excited for it. Probably one of the reasons I chose it. And he was saying, they sort of imploded in the late '90s, early 2000s, sort of various things, but also lifestyles that were just not sustainable. And there seemed to be a lot of that in the '90s and '80s and '90s. These sort of these bands that come from the punk world but move towards more chaotic sort of expressions, punk bands, and go towards sort of metal sometimes. Like Iron Monkey, they fit to me much more the punk side than they do the metal, because it's they have that sort of just the sonic edge to them, and the vocals are sort of so they're not the Cookie Monster. They literally sound like the voice is being really the delivery really does not sound good for the guy's voice.
I found out a brilliant thing about how to protect your voice if you sing like that this morning on the walk to glamorous Beat Motel Studio A that I'm in today. But just as a final thing on Iron Monkey, it's the fact they're from Nottingham somehow captures my imagination, because Nottingham, I don't know if it really ever had it. I don't know anything about the Nottingham scene, but I do know people who would have been a part of the Nottingham scene. People like Marv Gadji, who's been on this podcast. So there is something that I'm quite absorbed with Iron Monkey. So singing, I've been listening to the last episode of After the Deluge, which is a really good podcast presented by someone I'm pretty sure was a music journalist, just because the way he talks is much more interesting than how I do when I talk about music. So the whole point of the series is that each season they'll cover a band and they'll get various people in to talk about specific albums. So they've been doing Against Me, and one of the first ones they had Frank Turner in to talk about. I can't remember which album. Frank Turner, who I interviewed and then put in Beat Motel when it was an actual zine as Frank Black. Because I was a twat, not to be funny, just because I was a moron. But Laura Jane's on the last one, and it's a wonderful listen. It is absolute joy. She sounds so at peace and so just cheerful, just chipper, literally just like happy, just really sunny. But she was saying that she took her daughter to see Smashing Pumpkins. And she said that Billy Corgan was doing this really strange thing in between songs where he'd go to the edge of the stage and he had like a little table set up, a bit like sort of little tables that magicians use. And on that table, he had a bowl of, well, Laura Jane was saying Lay's, so like Walker's crisps. And in between each song, he'd take one crisp and he'd put it in his mouth and he'd make a sort of a theatrical massaging thing to bring the crisp down, then take a little sip of water and then go back on and sing the next song. And Laura Jane was like, what the fuck is that? What is that? So she did some digging. She said that she learned after recording the first Against Me album that she was just going to literally end up with no voice if she didn't start to learn how to protect her voice. And apparently crisps, especially Lay's crisps, are so oily that it is actually a really good way to protect your throat if you sing with a bit of gravel. So she says she does it in the studio now. In the studio, she'll sing, like, have a single crisp, like massage.
I like to think they're all eating cheese and onion.
I cannot abide cheese and onion crisps. Can fuck off. And
Hot take, ladies and gentlemen.
hot take: cheese and onion crisps can fuck off. Oh, I used to love hedgehog flavour crisps. Did you ever have them?
No, I like my favourite Monster Munch, but
Go on, Monster Munch.
yeah, pickled onion, fucking brilliant.
Oh,
You don't want to go near me for about a week afterwards.
My wife insists that they smell like cum. Oh, we're such
What
a
have
great.
you been eating, Andrew?
We're such a great music commentary podcast, aren't we?
Okay, next riff.
Oh shit! I haven't even done my riff of the week yet. Right? Okay, here's my riff of the week. Oh man.
That's right, my name's Yao.
That was Sam. Do you know who that was?
Beast Boys.
It was the Beastie Boys. Do you know that track?
No.
Oh, okay. That track is called "Sounds of Silence," and I chose this because the Beastie Boys I've always been aware of them. I know the big singles, and the only Beastie Boys album I've got is Some Old Bullshit, which is them like early hardcore and then sort of experimental, really odd stuff, which I've had since I was about 16, I think. But I decided to give them an actual listen because I kept hearing things I liked. They popped up in the Pink Floyd episode that we did a long time ago. And so I listened to Paul's Boutique start to finish. And there are bits of it that do just pass me by, and it's just Beastie Boys just doing hip hop. But that track in particular is one of the tracks that's got these really, really fucking obvious samples. So the guitar bit in that is from The End by the Beatles, which I don't think they got permission for, even though it's so bloody obvious that it's there. And I listened to the remastered version of Paul's Boutique, which if I was getting into a band, I wouldn't normally do that. I'd normally, try not to. I want to hear the original version. But the remastered version's really filthy. It's really thick. It's not. It sounds.
Why wouldn't you want to listen to the remastered version? I don't understand.
It's just a stupid. I want to hear how they closer to how they would have sounded at the time.
But that's the only way. The only way you can do that is listen to it on the vinyl they put out.
As I was saying that, I was realizing how daft that is to say, because I'm never going to get the same context either.
Because one of the problems that a lot of early CDs faced was that they weren't remastered for CDs.
Mm.
You need different mastering for CDs and vinyl and so on and so forth. And one of the most annoying things with buying a shellac album is when you get the free CD, it's not mastered for CD, so it sounds really flat.
Wow, I'm really surprised Steve Albini would not pay that much attention. I thought that would be.
No, he does. He doesn't like CDs.
Oh, so it's just being Steve Albini then.
Steve Albini. And so the vinyl always sounds better because it's mastered for vinyl. And one of the things that they do now is like if you get remastered, there's a good chance it's remastered for digital stuff.
It sounds wonderful. It sounds so. What I really liked about it, and it is we both listen on Tidal because they do the lossless FLAC or whatever the format's called. It sounds. I listened to it here in Glamorous Studio A, and I've got pretty massive speakers. It sounded like when you're actually in the control room at a recording studio. Because when you're recording in a really nice studio, which I've only done a few times, no matter what you do to the mix, everything sounds brilliant. Everything sounds fantastic through £30,000 monitors. And it was a bit like that. It came on, it was so full and so big. The only other place I've ever heard things sound that good is at your apartment with your valve amp and those round speakers where you put something on and you can just sit and listen and absorb every part of the frequency, whereas every other experience has the wrong bits boosted. So I use earpods and they're far too bassy. They're not clean at all.
Yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of experiences. I mean, I sort of find myself listening to music on the wrong format ruins it. I think we had this conversation a little bit with the replacements.
Mm.
Like, all shook down. It sucks in the headphones. Maybe it sounds better on over-ear headphones, but it really did not sound good in earbuds. It sounds pretty good. It sounds like a well put together, well sort of engineered album and mastered album um, on the speakers. And this was sort of like so it's not, but it's and I was listening to what was it another band coming to Helsinki who I'm going to see because I just want to leave the house sometimes. Band called Gate Creeper, and they're sort of old school death metal sort of stuff to college, and they sound. I get bored if I listen to it on my headphones. I put them on the speaker. It sounds massive. It sounds great. I'm sold. Also, like sometimes death metal has these really echoey, reverb heavy vocals, and I really don't like it. Sounds good on the speakers.
It's really hard to get anything that isn't coloured
Yeah.
massively. The sound isn't coloured. So these are these aren't. These are sort of mid-range Sony headphones. So they're probably nearly a couple of £100 new. But I'll never buy them again because they're so bassy. They're just appears to be the way they're done. My favourite headphones are actually some flat monitoring headphones that I have in slightly less glamorous Beat Motel Studio B, because they're completely flat. I can then control how I want the music to hear using the controls on my amp rather than going, hey, everyone wants everything bassy, and like earpods are too bassy as well. But we are now half an hour in, and I'm going to stop doing timestamps because it's making it sound like breakfast radio. Should we reveal the theme for this week?
Yes, but I was being a bit lazy because I haven't been near music in the last week because I've been on the job. Holiday.
On the bog, did you say?
On the bog.
That's some mean constipation.
IBS will get you. This week it's great opening lines.
Yeah,
basically.
we've had this on the cards for a long time,
and these ones for my choice were just off the top of my head, so I'm not even sure the music starts with opening lines.
I did. Well, there is one that I'm not sure I've clipped the right part because we always we give each other timestamps when we prepare this, dear listener. And Sam's just said, I'll just go for the start for all of them, but we can only play 30 seconds. So some of these are kind of a bit fine. I am going to look up the lyrics each time we play a clip so we can actually say them, because it always crazes me when podcasts talk about the lyrics in the songs but don't actually tell you the lyrics, and like, well, I didn't catch it, or I didn't hear it, or it was just playing in the background or something. So here's your first choice, Sam.
The party's over. A city skipping. It's the same hook repeating. Grows more grating with each passing second. And the walls contain a resonation. Laughter and conversation. It was fun while it lasted, but now we should be going. And I have everybody.
Just fucking yes. Who's that, Sam?
That's the Against Me's, Laura Jane against herself, and This Shit Rules from the opening track from Against Me as the Eternal Cowboy, their first album on Fat Wreck, and one of my favourite openings of any album ever.
Before I go any before I actually read the lyrics, there was some shouting in the background in that I've never heard before. Did you hear it?
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard that, and so it's quite neat that we're talking about the difference of listening to stuff on headphones. I think you used to get stuff like that quite often on records because it stops the needle jumping. So if you've got like sonically that just goes bang. It's such a fucking like start to an album, isn't it? Just to go woof, it just goes straight to 100%. And on vinyl, if you do that, I think the needle jumps out. So I've heard it on lots and lots of things when I was listening to exclusively vinyl, when CDs weren't something I could afford, and listening to music really, really loud on headphones as a child or young teenager. A lot of albums have a very quiet bit at the beginning. So like my 12-inch for There's No Other Way by Blur, if you turn it up really loud at the beginning, it's got the main riff, but super quiet in the background. And I wonder if that little bit, God, how geeky is this? Whether it's a nod to that.
Maybe,
That's fairly obscure, wouldn't
yeah, it's an interesting sort of question. It's weird to notice that. Yeah.
It's a joy. Okay. So the lyrics, the party's over, a CD skipping, it's the same hook repeating, grows more grating with each passing second. And the walls contain a resonation, laughter and conversation. It was fun while it lasted, but now we should be going. I hope everyone's had a real good time. That's as far as we got.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's great. I think it's this sort of like everybody. We've signed to Fat Rep, and the whole sort of snob underground is accusing us of selling out. And we used to be the band that everybody goes to see, and we used to be the band who plays hard every night, and everybody says the party's over. So is the party over? Fuck you.
I had no idea. I never took it that way at all. That was
my interpretation of it. That's always been my interpretation of it, is basically going, you think we're done. You've written us off before we've even started. Fuck you.
Wow. That's so much cooler. I just thought it was a nice way to start an album. I did for a brief while think that it was a nod to NoFX, because there is a NoFX song that starts similar lyrics, like about CD skipping and stuff. Oh shit, I should have prepared for that, really, shouldn't I? So I thought maybe because they were there on Fat Wreck, it was like, hey, we're going to sing about a similar thing to NoFX, which is just a horrible, horrible thought.
That might be it. That might be there as well. To me, it was always like we were this. It's the sort of there's other meanings within those lyrics as well. The party's over, CD skipping. So someone's put on a damaged CD. People in the digital world may not know this, but if you scratch a CD, and you can scratch CDs, you can't actually run tanks over them like they did in the
put jam on them was the other thing.
Put jam on them. And particularly older CDs are worse for it. You get this sort of digital scratching to it, and you get these sort of really weird moments within songs, and it really destroys the pleasure of listening. That CD. You can also overplay CDs. So, I've done that to a few albums.
I had no idea. I didn't realise that'd be a thing. Go on.
My two albums the Black Album, the first Black Album, and I think I've done it about a few Metallica albums, mostly Metallica ones, that I've had, or me and my brother had since I was about 10. So that's, heavy play over the course of, that would have been 15 years when they started skipping.
That might be. There was a whole problem because at the start there was only a few factories making CDs, and one of them was a Sony factory. And the way they laminated the surface, that started to fall apart after a few years because it just wasn't done very well.
Yeah.
The song I was thinking of by NoFX is Rico, and
okay.
that starts.
How does that start?
Rico, try to understand. It really is that bad. It won't just go away. The party's over. It's past 2:00, so it's about time we stopped. So I might have been taking 2 and 2 and making 49 there, but
I can see the them talking to each other, as it were.
Yeah, but yeah, your version's so much better. And I mean, just as a start to a song, it's just so bloody good. Right, let's go for my first choice. Sam's grinning.
No, it's not what we meant to say. We don't really love each other. What happens when the summer's over?
How long before distance becomes a chore?
I'm approaching with great trepidation. I hope you'll understand.
That it's so strange. That's Against Me with Born on the FM Waves of Love. It's so strange hearing the different production between those two tracks. So this would have been a Butch Vig production. And the other voice on there is, I can't remember if it's Tegan or Sarah. It's one of the two. But I chose this because we talked about the Replacements having like mastered the sense of longing. And this period Against Me, Lord Jane sort of sets up stories in a way that I sort of, at the time, and now I find very, very endearing. I find it very, she sets the scene very well. You know immediately what the song's about, what the entire story is going to be about. So the lyrics are, no, it's not what we meant to say. We don't really love each other. What happens when the summer's over? How long before the distance becomes a chore? I'm approaching with great trepidation. I'm sure you'll understand. I mean, it's a whole story there, isn't it? It sets the scene very nicely.
It's yeah. So what's your interpretation?
I just assume it's a couple that are having like a holiday romance, or come back from different universities and having a summer romance, and they've got to go back to university. I think, to me, it's that simple. But I'd love to hear your interpretation.
No, I think that's. I mean, a part of me thinks it could be about the distance of touring.
Ah, yeah, nice. Yeah, I don't want to dig too much into it, but this would be Lord Jane would still first wife.
No, I think the second wife.
No, she's married to second wife now, isn't she?
The third wife.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, okay. So maybe it's not about that.
She. Sorry to say he, but she sometimes reading about her biography seems quite reckless in her personal life.
Oh.
As in, she married someone when she was like 19 or something,
Wow.
and it was working as a mechanic. And you're sort of, I don't know, it's like, and now she's sort of with this this other person, woman, Paris something, not Paris Hilton. That would be a story. That would be that.
At this stage, I wouldn't rule anything out.
That would get up the punks. Really would.
That shows.
Yeah, fine. You can change gender, but you can't fucking go with Paris Hilton. That's too far.
Wild. Something I noticed really odd about the video for this is the video and the lyrics appear to have no relation to each other at all.
Oh, their music videos are shit. All of them.
This one, it's the most. I hate to say it because I'm talking about Against Me, and I had to pause, and it does hurt me slightly. It's one of the most cliched MTV rock-friendly videos that they made. It's a band rolling their equipment into a live room, a rehearsal room or whatever, and then playing the song, and there's lots of them laughing and sharing a beer and going ha 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 ha, ha. And it just is horrible.
I don't think Against Me have ever put together a good music video.
I watched White People for Peace, the video for that last night, and I stopped it after about 30 seconds. Love the song, but I was just like, this video is just too shit. It's so bad. I don't know if the band just didn't want to have anything to do with it, but
let's do a podcast about best music videos.
Yeah, because this won't be on it.
No.
Where it totally loses me, it's two bunches of people painted different colours on a football field, beating crap out of each other. Fair enough, whatever. It's a war. It's a protest song, and then for some fucking reason, there's what looks like a tramp with a guitar stumbling around in a tunnel. just awful.
I never understood why bands just don't employ really cool animators to make their videos.
Animators or college students or someone just
don't you don't have to be in the video unless your fucking record company makes you be in the video, and that could be the case in a lot of them. But Primus, I know you may not have a large tolerance for Primus, but Primus have some of the coolest music videos out there because they're so weird, and they went genuinely experimental. Like they did. Wyona's Got a Big Brown Beaver. It's a song title and a half. That video, they recorded that video something in like a particular sort of framing. This is like pre-digital, a particular framing. So they had to figure out how fast the song was too. And the entire time they're playing, they've got these ridiculous sort of plastic costumes on. It's a great, really bizarre video. And the other side, and they're all dressed up as like in these plastic outfits. They're dressed up as cartoon cowboys, and then it goes to an animation which is just about a brown beaver.
I've made a note to talk about this on another episode because I think we can go quite deep in a lot of ways with this. So we're going to park it there, and I'm going to play your next choice.
Microphone check, 1, 2, what is this? The 5-foot assassin with the roughneck business. I float like gravity, never had a cavity. Got more rhymes than the one that's got family. No need to sweat Arsenio to gain some type of fame. No shame in my game, cause I always be the same. Styles upon styles is what I have. You wanted just to fight for, but you still don't know the half. I sport new
One of the best bands ever. Who was that, Sam?
That was Five Dog and well missed Five Dog, who was in the band A Tribe Called Quest, and that song is Bugging Out, which is one of the greatest pieces of hip hop ever put together. The bass line is just so cool. It's so cool.
It sounds so good as well, because a lot of that period hip hop, everything was sampled through the Akai MPC, and you could only get like something like 2.5 seconds. So what you do is, if you were sampling from a record or anything else, you'd play the record really fast, sample it for the very short period of time, and then to get a whole riff, you then have to slow the sample right down, and it makes it sort of really artifacty, really sort of odd. But that must have been someone playing it, or they were just playing it straight off a record into the tape.
Well, one of the things that makes that really cool is that it's clearly samples. You can hear the vinyl being pressed and stopped. If you play it again, play the first.
No, absolutely will.
You hear it being stopped.
Yeah, no, okay. So that is absolutely sampled.
So what they did was they took a jazz. I think they took a jazz. It might have been Ron Carter, who's on that album, who is a bassist who played with Miles Davis and is a sort of bebop legend, a jazz legend. They got a double bassist, or they sampled from somewhere a piece of double bass, but they chopped it up to make its own bass line. So rather than just, and this is sort of quite innovative in the day, because rather than just take like a sample and put it on repeat, they made their own bass line by chopping up someone's bass line in the first place.
Oh, it's just so good. The production of Tribe Called Quest is, I love the production of early Wu-Tang, but Tribe Called Quest just do it better. And it's just more inventive and more interesting.
Read the lyrics in a really white British way.
Absolutely. The lyrics are about the most dense I've ever seen. So normally you look up lyrics, they're all in stanzas, they're in groups. This is just like a chunk of text. Here goes. Yo, Microphone check 1 2. What is this? That's just my voice, Sam. What are you laughing for? That's just me being me. Yo, microphone check 1 2. What is this? The 5-foot assassin with the roughneck business. I float like gravity. Never had a cavity. Got more rhymes than the ones got family. No need to sweat Arsenio to gain some type of fame. No shame in my game because I'll always be the same. One of the things I love about Tribe Called Quest is that there's really funny little bits of humour. I mean, they absolutely took it seriously, but I mean, there's the sort of the overtly comedy, and I'm doing air quotes because I'm a twat. Songs like Left My Wallet in El Segundo and whatever, but just chucking in the float like gravity, never had a cavity. That just sort of, I don't know. I don't know if it's meant to be funny or it's just like going, well, what the hell's going to rhyme with gravity?
I mean, like, I don't know. Some to me, some hip hop is just like it's a weird boast rap song because it doesn't really seem to have much of a story to it. It's like sometimes you have like, you know, as you said, Left My Wallet in El Segundo, and this one has, you know, like when oh god, what's he called? The other rapper,
Q-Tip
comes on. His line goes, not the best, not the worst. When do you hear a fucking rapper say that? I'm not the best, I'm not the worst. And occasionally I curse to get my point across. So it's like I'm not great, I'm human. I'm not terrible.
I see the lyrics for this. The video's wild, it's just bizarre. But the lyrics for this, I see it as they're just sort of, they're kind of just saying, you know, we are what we are, and this is it. It's not really like a super hype hip hop track, which were all the style at the time. So maybe it's a reaction against that. It's also one of the only hip hop tracks I've ever heard has the word ejaculation in it.
You should look up more.
Yeah,
more
that might
sex
just say.
hip-hop.
It's got
Another thing for listeners to send us your songs, hip hop songs with the word ejaculation in.
This one is minds get flooded, ejaculation right on the 2-inch tape. Don't know. I also like the line, I drink a lot of soda, so they call me Dr. Pepper. It's just
I love the line. I can remember this one because I like this line so much. I bought New Balance sneakers to avoid a narrow path. It's so good.
Well, I don't get it.
Because, well, New Balance, I'm trying to become balanced so I don't avoid a narrow path, but so I don't get pigeonholed. So I buy New Balance speakers.
Yeah, there's some music that I think the people who wrote this are much cleverer than I am. And with like Tribe Called Quest, it just makes me feel good. Just like, good. I'm glad you're using your intelligence. Because, well, I have made hip hop, and we'll just skip past that and play my next choice.
Drink, sex, cigarettes, Ford Cortina, household pets, bombs, wars, famine, death, and apathetic public couldn't get less. Public watches ITV, reads the sun, drinks cups of tea, a two-star family, stay content, and life's controlled by Parliament. Well, Gully's lost his job again, because he never had no brain. He only lives to watch TV. If I could...
Shitting hell, that's literally half the song.
Yeah.
So that's I'm not going to say, we normally put a "the" in front of band names, but this is Subhumans. If I was to call it the Subhumans, that's the Canadian. I think they're Canadian or American, the other one. So that's very 1982 or whenever it is that it came out.
85.
85 was it really? But I was thinking, do I think this is great? And I think it is great. I don't think it's one of the greatest opening lines, but there's bits of it that just really appeal to me so much. Again, it's setting a scene, but also when I was clipping it last night, I thought, in terms of lyrics, it escalates so fucking fast. It's like drink, sex, cigarettes, Ford Cortina, household pet. Okay, I can identify.
War, famine, death.
Yeah,
An apathetic public could care less.
Go on, you do this one. Go on, because this goes. Stop before you get to the bit about Russians, but give us a performance of this, because
The public watches ITV, reads The Sun, drinks cups of tea. 2-star families stay content. Their lives controlled by Parliament. Well, Daddy's lost his job again because he's never had no brain. He only lives to watch TV. His life controlled by apathy.
By apathy. I sort of see. I can't remember his name. The singer's, whatever his name is. I sort of see him and Jello Biafro as sort of ballpark same commentary. I think that some of the subhuman stuff does degenerate down into I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this. Whereas
I love to hear punk band do that. I don't like this. That's a great
pies.
That's a great chorus.
But this is it's angry, and I just like the Subhumans. I need to go back and listen to him again. But yeah, I do get to the point where I'm like, okay. It hasn't aged very well. I mean, Ford Cortina. In the lyrics, the version of the lyrics I've got, there isn't a comma, so it doesn't say Ford Cortina, comma, household pets. It says Ford Cortina household pets, which is, oh God, bloody hell. I think my mind just starts to fall apart, and I start to overanalyze. So is he saying that a car like a Ford Cortina, which is about as beige and middle of the road as you could possibly get, people are so proud of their car they treat them like household pets? Ford Cortina household pets?
It could, yeah. I mean, that's one way of interpreting it. I mean, I think it is basically about, it's quite on the head. There's not a lot of nuance to it, but he does it in a. You're right. I think there's quite a humorous sort of like drink sex to bombs, war, famine, death. But he's basically saying, well, the song's called Apathy. So our lives make us numb.
Yeah, there's nuance, not so much. I really like the fact that some of the later Subhumans albums have songs on them which they're not in the slightest bit political, but it's done with the same sort of anger. There's a song called Mosquitoes, and the chorus is, I hate mosquitoes, I hate mosquitoes, I hate mosquitoes, and mosquitoes ate me. Oh, ate me. No, he's probably not saying ate me, it's just his accent, isn't it? Dick Lucas, that was his name. And he was a public school boy. Right, on that bombshell.
It's a good. He's yeah.
Let's
They're
have
another band from me that have suffered from cheap production that could only afford, and therefore, when I started to get access to them, I was just like, yeah, it's all right. It's not.
I haven't heard the latest album, but the one before, Internal Riot, production's great. Sounds really good. And what I always found bizarre is they had an album out on Fat Wreck. It's like live in a dive, which will absolutely be just because Fat Mike was obsessed with the Subhumans. It won't be for any other reason. It wouldn't have been a good commercial decision for Fat Wreck at the time, I shouldn't think. But let's have your next track.
Elevator going up in the gleaming corridor of the 51st floor. The money can be made if you really want some more. Executive decision, a clinical precision. Jumping from the windows filled with indecision. I get good advice from the advertising world. Treat me nice, party girl. Go catch life where there isn't any. So free, man, free. It's the pause.
That's the most Clash sounding start to a Clash song I think I've ever heard. Also reminded me of Against Me. I just suddenly literally went, that is not a million miles away. Sort of the sort of attack of the guitar and the bass and whatever, and even the lyrical thing. So Elevator going up.
Yeah.
In the gleaming corridor of the 51st floor, the money can be made if you really want some more. Executive decision, a clinical precision. Jumping from the windows filled with indecision. I get good advice from the advertising world. Treat me nice, party girl. Cola adds life where there isn't any. So freeze, man, freeze. What the fuck's it about?
Oh,
Or is it
it's
just
about
general anti-capitalism kind of thing?
no. It's rallying against advertising. It's particularly against advertising. It's anti-capitalist, of course, but it's also sort of going. This is the life that advertising gives you. There's another line on the same album, "Lost in the Supermarket," which is one of my favorite sets of lyrics, which was. I should have chosen that one because I love that lyric. The opening line is I came inside. What's it?
There's some other ones. You don't need a laundrette. You can send them to the vet. I'm not sure about what that means.
This is it. Fuck.
Your tongue feels like a fish. That's another one.
I mean, I think it's about it's about passing as well. But so "Lost in the Supermarket" by The Clash. I'm all lost in the supermarket. I can no longer shop happily. I came inside for that special offer, a guaranteed personality. That's the chorus, but it's such a nice like attack on advertising. I think it's a really sort of like you're buying your personality when you buy these things, and it's like it's a shortcut to having a personality, as it were.
It's one of those things that punk absolutely ruined my life, because once you gain that perspective, which you absolutely will if you listen to any, well, still pretty much any punk, you're going to get that question everything. And I do think sometimes I might have been happier if I'd just been ignorant of it and just been a little drone going along doing the same as everybody else.
Yeah, but it's too late for that.
That ship has sailed, caught fire, plopped off the edge of flat Earth.
But also, the last line of that verse on Coca-Cola, the song that I chose, was "Jumping from the windows filled with indecision," which is, because when there are these financial crashes, when these big companies go off, people do commit suicide. They do jump from these windows when they don't know what to do, because advertising can't tell them what to do when the inevitable crisis hits.
Ah, okay. Always interested by Joe Strummer's vocals. Did he write? I'm just assuming he wrote the lyrics. He may not have done.
I think for this one, yeah, he did.
Right. So I'm going to play my next track.
I got syphilitic hetero friends in every part of town. I don't hate them, but I know them. I don't want them hanging around. I won't break my bones for every little girl he gets.
I've just sent you the lyrics that you can read them. I sent them on WhatsApp. But that is Snake Driver by Jesus and Mary Chain.
Syphilitic hetero friends in every part of town. I don't hate them, but I know them, and I don't want them hanging around. I roll my bones for every little girl who gets on down. I got space, and space got me. I should be selling it by the pound. Ever since I heard the voice, I thought I had no choice, but then I kissed her. I don't
That's about
mind
as
if
far
I
as
got
me.
broken. I don't mind if I get fixed. I don't mind if I'm not spoken. I don't mind if I get kicks. If I wake up dead, I'll wake up just like any other day.
I think it's probably just meaningless bollocks. But I think it's a good example.
Great opening line, though.
Oh, just what? Yeah, that's it. It was
Because
this song that.
Your head goes like, oh, this is like a bit psychedelic, blah blah blah, and he got what? It literally, because you're also not expecting to hear syphilitic friends, hetero friends. You're not expecting to hear that line in a song.
No, just not at all. But just the flow of it and the way it fits it. That riff. How many notes do you need for a riff? One. You need one note. That's all you need.
It's great. That
was just that. I mean, so a lot of Jesus and Mary Chain, I love it because the lyrics, not because they're deep and meaningful. There is some humour in it in a similar way to Tribe Called Quest, where it's just little bits that are dropped in. So there's another track I was going to choose, but I chose this one, and it starts. I love Beetle John. She loves Beetle Paul. We don't hate the rest, but we can't love them all. It's just like, and a lot of Jesus and Mary Chain, the first 2 or 3 lines of a song have nothing to do with the rest of the song at all. I'm sure there's like the Reed brothers have got a little black book where it's just packed full of good first lines. Just get the first line right, get that hook, and then we can say what we want after that.
It's an interesting. I mean, this is like, it's talking about the skill of like how to wake people up from whatever they're listening to, and like a lot of the time it is a bit of a yelp or a leap in volume, or like, and this is just sort of like, oh no, this is all one level, but we're just going to put in words that you just do not expect to hear. That's great.
They're just so unapologetically slightly updated version of Velvet Underground, and they're still sticking with it now. Their new stuff's really good as well. But let's go play your next track. There's no singing.
But it's such a fucking good way to start a song. I'm a massive fan of Slayer, frankly. I think they're completely overrated, and I really don't give a shit that they've got back together. And I think actually it's really fucking shitty of them to piss on all these other people who left their jobs to help Kerry King out, and fuck them and all that stuff.
What? Left their jobs to help out Kerry King?
I mean, like, Kerry King's got this solo album coming out, and they basically have trampled and pissed on it by reforming Slayer. And I just think it's so fucking weak to come back, and just because, I don't know, you want to fucking go on holiday to Australia or something. Fuck you. Stay dead. Some fucking bands should stay dead. You played your last tour. You fucking milked it for all it was worth. Stay dead. And this song has got them into a lot of trouble because it is awful lyric.
And I was going to say, looking up the lyrics, thinking I'm not going to read these.
It's about Auschwitz, which is, if you don't know Auschwitz was the concentration camp where several million Jewish, LGBTQ, and
mentally disabled
traveling community people
gypsies,
and disabled, and all these, but mostly Jewish people, got sent to death. And it is a horrible lyric detailing some of that, and sort of imagining, like, it's a bit like imagining a fiery pit of hell, but. And some bands like this sort of like provocative lyric sort of stuff, and they did that.
It's not even fucking provocative though. It's just grim. I would respect it more if there was. Oh, good God, that subject. I just can't touch it. I can't even I can't find anything that would be a funny alternative take on it. It's just too shit. And that howl is pretty good, but we saw Slayer play that, and it was one of the sloppiest gigs I've ever seen. They they'd start a song, do a little bit, and then it would fall apart, and they'd have another crack at it, and it happened more than once. Do you remember? It was at Alexandra Palace.
I remember I didn't enjoy that.
I went out and chain smoked rollies instead
That
of
was-
watching
I
them because
think
I was just
that was-
bored.
Oh, so that was the point. The sort of like death knell of Slayer to me was when they became the acceptable middle class metal band for Guardian readers.
That's brilliant. You're really on top form today, Sam.
Well, but I just like fuck Slayer. They're not that good. Their production is so monotone.
Mm.
It's shocking. The solos. Jeff Hanneman, who wrote, I think, most of the best riffs, his solos are also better than Kerry King's, who are just, they're just chromatic nonsense a lot of the time. Oh, I'm going to go, and then dive bomb. Fuck off. Crap. Absolute shit. I fucking had it up to here with a fucking hype around fucking Slayer. And I wish them the best. I hope they all enjoy their retirement and they stop coming back, because I'm sick of old bands being the only thing that gets put on at rock concerts and the only thing people turn up to. Nirvana are dead, they're not coming back. Slayer should not come back because they shouldn't come back.
Well, so you don't want them back just because it'd be annoying, but I don't want to keep talking about that After the Deluge podcast, but they're talking to Laura Jane's involved in like a Operation Ivy kind of
Cover thing.
It's like a thing.
Yeah.
And they were sort of saying it'd be quite cool if Operation Ivy came back. It'd be weird, but I can see that would be interesting. And then they said, "What about Fugazi?" And Lord Jane's like, "I would feel so betrayed if Fugazi came back." And I thought, I love that attitude, because it would be such a betrayal of like everything Fugazi did, like come out with a line of t-shirts that are available for sale in Debenhams or somewhere. Just there. Right, so fuck Slayer, and on to my last one, which
Oh, I just want
hang on, I'll stop it.
No, go.
Oh, right, so we were going to complain about Slayer some more. I press play.
Fuck Slayer.
Ladies and gentlemen, fuck Slayer.
Billy the Mountain. Billy the Mountain. A regular picturesque postcardy mountain residing between lovely Rosamond and Gorman. With
I've just accidentally sent the lyrics to somebody else on on LinkedIn. Not LinkedIn, WhatsApp.
Fuck Frank Zappa too.
Oh, how did you know that? Do you just look it up?
No, he's got a very distinctive sonic palette.
So that's Frank Zappa with Mothers of Invention, and the song "Billy is a Mountain." And this, when I was about 17 or 18, this CD is called "Just Another Band from LA." It's a live CD. I listened to it too much, and to the extent I've never gone back to it because I loved it because it was just so odd. But this song, "Billy was a Mountain," it's about half an hour long. And frankly, that's probably 29 minutes too long. It's like it's like some sort of bizarre. It's 1969 or 1970, and it's some sort of bizarre. I don't know what it is. But also, the recording's got this terrible feedback, really low rumbling feedback going through the whole thing.
I told you about. I said earlier in the podcast about listening to things on the right. Through the right medium for them. I was listening just before we did the podcast. I was doing the laundry because I'm a modern man, and I was listening to Frank Zappa, and I always, because of his notoriety and his sort of like fame within the alternative music world, I always sort of feel like I've missed something. And I listened to Hot Rats, and I decided, no, I'm just never going to get it, really. I have seen the Mothers of Invention play.
I'd be more
play-
interested in that, to be honest.
Yeah, they were playing as the godmothers of Invention, or the grandmothers of Invention, rather.
That's great.
And it was like a few original sort of Frank Zappa's band. They're fucking incredible musicians. I can't remember a single thing. It just was not a very busy gig, and they played the hell out of the music, and I was just transfixed by that musicianship in front of me. Do I want to listen to it? No.
I know exactly what you mean. I sometimes think the coolest thing about Frank Zappa is that poster you used to be able to buy of him sat on the shitter. I don't get it. I can sort of, in this live album, there are bits where he does rip into solos, and they're interesting. They're good. They're not like other solos, but ultimately they are not of great interest to me.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of classical music that I can say, well, that's interesting. Incidentally, sorry, we're now just going to go off topic, but there's a podcast, listeners. There's a podcast that Sam and I both like called "You're Dead to Me," which is made by the BBC, and a new episode's just come out about Mozart, and it's absolutely brilliant, absolutely fantastic thing. Well, it's a show, really, isn't it? It's a Radio 4 show, but so fucking good.
We should ask Greg Jenner to come on the show.
So Billy was a mountain. Ethel was a tree growing off his... Oh, I'm not going to read that. Have you seen how long the lyrics are? I'm going to count them. Right, here goes. This will just be like either a damp squib or it'll be a good thing. I'm asking ChatGPT. How many words are here? Even ChatGPT doesn't like Frank Zappa. It says this content violates our usage policies. Oh, well. Well, that was a fun episode. That was actually... It was challenging to get the songs together because there were so many... We could have just used Against Me. I mean, we could have just had 8 tracks that were all Against Me. But, yeah, that was a good one. That was a good choice, I think. So should we do this again next week?
Let's do this again next week.
I am really bursting for a wee, to the extent I know it's going to be slightly painful when I stand up.
Well, thank you for doing it to me in the ear holes.
Right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Rate, subscribe, and all that stuff. I do appreciate that we are actually getting subscribers on YouTube and on the Spotify and other places. So thank you very much, you lot. You're all lovely. I'm going to say goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye, Sam?
Oh, why?